Night Creeps 2, an adult horror story. Written by Michael D'Ambrosio. Narrated by Edward Thornton. Chapter 1. Welcome to Parmesan Valley. Parmesan Valley is a small reclusive town set in the beautiful Sierra Nevada mountains. Since the alien incursion 6 months prior in the spring, the population, which was once about 1,500, was now scant 50 or so. The cover story provided by the federal government about a rare strain of rabies that spread among many of the town's population explained issues such as why the bodies were burned and why the evacuated survivors were quarantined for 45 days afterwards. Conspiracies filled the internet because of the concurrent and unexplained explosions at an Air Force base and over Graham's Mountain. But at this point, no one with enough credibility to open an investigation really cared. The problem was dealt with, and the matter was considered closed, as far as the authorities were concerned. Like Sheriff Lamar Whittington and his deputy, Johnny Watkins, their nightmares about the creatures and what they did to their victims would scar them for life. What they didn't realize was that the spring event was just the beginning of something much more frightening. On a clear starry night in the valley, 3 small lights shot across the sky and vanished over Graham's Mountain. Lamar, now the interim mayor, exited the municipal building and paused to observe the lights. Interested, thought to himself, and continued to walk the half-mile to his home. It was rare that he worked into the evening, but he had 4 days, counting the weekend, to review applicable permits and codes associated with mining in the state and county. An ambitious company was anxious to start a mining project on Graham's Mountain, and he wanted to understand all the requirements, both federal and state, before he gave them the okay to initiate the project. Now that the town was his, he was determined to make it a model for other towns and possibly even cities across the country. This was his opportunity to make something good out of the horror that had befallen them. As he strolled along the side of the road, he regretted how long it had been since he dated. He found it difficult for an African-American in a rural, predominantly white region to find someone of his persuasion. Of late, he felt the emptiness inside and longed for someone to share his life with. Johnny, now the interim sheriff, suggested to him several times that he ought to take a vacation on a singles cruise, which was likely his best opportunity to meet someone compatible. Unfortunately, that wasn't Lamar's style. He preferred to meet someone naturally, instead of seemingly arranged, and let the chips fall where they may. Taking notice of several of the empty buildings along the route, he assured himself that it was only temporary. Once the town's new reputation spread, potential residents would come from all over and repopulate the town, his town. He noticed a poster in the window of the local hardware store, announcing the date and time of the town's barbecue on Saturday to celebrate his and Johnny's official swearing in to their new positions. At times, Lamar found it awkward to replace the previous mayor, who died under horrible circumstances. He often wondered what he would do if someone he cared for became an alien creature. Could he pull the trigger and shoot him? Or would he, like his predecessor, shoot himself to escape the pain? That was a question he hoped he'd never have to answer. After 20 years as a police officer and less than a year as a sheriff, he knew it'd be tough to take on a bureaucratic job like mayor, even in little Parmesan Valley. Lamar was always on the front line, fighting crime and aliens and mutants, for that matter. He also knew it'd be tough to avoid interfering with Johnny when he needed to step back and let him do his job as a new sheriff. Johnny convinced Lamar to join him at the gym regularly, where they took out their anxieties from the incursion in the weight room. As a result, Lamar looked rugged, 210 pounds, instead of the blubbery 260 that he weighed when he first arrived in the valley last year. He owed Johnny more for that than anything else.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?